Women Taking the Lead, episode 227.
It's okay if you're not 100% every day. It's okay if you're 60 to 75% because the 125% days will outweigh, it'll all even out in the end.
Hello, my name is Jody Flynn and welcome to Women Taking the Lead, where we are all about creating blasts of inspiration to help you overcome self-doubt so you can lead with confidence, integrity, and a sense of humor. Have you grabbed your copy of my best-selling book, Accomplished: How to Go from Dreaming to Doing? Head over to womentakingthelead.com/accomplished to access the secrets to achievement and success. Now, your future awaits, so let's get started. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm here with Elizabeth Moss, who is dedicated to recognizing Maine's role in American art. She opened her gallery in 2004 after completing a Master of Arts program in Museum Studies and Curatorial Research at George Washington University. While in Washington, she worked at the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden and was a member of Zonta International and a founding member of the Smithsonian Young Benefactors. She founded the nonprofit arts organization, the Maine Museum of Photographic Arts. Her gallery was named one of the top 500 galleries in North America by Blue and International's website Art Info. She is also an active member of the Women's Executive Forum. As director of Elizabeth Moss Galleries, she has exhibited at international arts fairs in New York City's 28th Street Armory and Boston's AD 2021 at the Cyclorama. Artworks from her gallery have been included in the Art and Embassies program and are in the corporate collections of LL Bean, Acadia Insurance, and Maine General Hospitals, and countless private collections in the U.S., France, Saudi Arabia, and Finland. Well, Elizabeth, or Liz, as I will call you, that's quite a bio, and it's pretty amazing, but it's a 10,000 foot of who you are in the world. So if you could, tell us a little bit more about you and your own humble beginnings.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. And the idea of either working in a museum or owning my own art gallery actually started as a teenager. I was probably about 13 when I started ripping out pages from magazines, both art and fashion and boy bands, and sticking it up on my wall from ceiling to floor. My dad thought I was crazy, but my mom just said, let her do whatever she wants. So I really started from a young age loving the idea of art and loving fashion. And so when I went away to college, I did study arts management, art history. And then I did eventually go on to get a master's degree in museum studies, hoping to work again at the Smithsonian, one of the Smithsonian museums.
And Liz, you've had success in your life. I mean, just reading your bio and what you added to it, like you could walk around feeling like, I got this, right?
It honestly, Jody, it doesn't feel that way day to day. When I was writing, pulling together all the experiences and my training and preparation, it does look impressive, but for a girl from Maryland just trying to sell art in Maine, it just feels very normal, one day at a time.
Right. Well, you know what? You make a good point, because I've talked with several women in my community. They've read my book, or they've been coached by me, or they're in my accomplished community, and they're achieving success, right? And it's not just because of me, but I'll ask them, like, so what I get that you've had a mindset shift, and that's great, but a mindset shift isn't worth anything unless your actions change. So what have you done differently? And a lot of them have said, I've just done one thing at a time. Taking the baby steps, and cumulatively, those baby steps end up looking like a pretty impressive bio.
Right. That is accurate. That's how I feel about it along the way. I've done things, mostly the impetus is to do things out of instinct or a desire, and to see, I like to challenge myself. How far can I take this? And then a lot of the times those things don't really end up the way I envision they're going to be, but the byproduct of those things are maybe so much better. So it's, I'll give you an example. So in 2009, it was quiet in January here in Maine and snowing, and I wanted to sort of do something exciting for the gallery and for myself. And I was driving by an empty storefront on Route 1 in Falmouth, and it was a place where there had been a Martha Stewart furniture flagship store. And I knew that it had closed and that the space was empty, and it was very beautiful inside. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll just have a pop-up exhibit of a photography show in this space. And this idea just sort of embedded in my mind. And then I started asking the community, and I met Bruce Brown, who had been the director of the Center for Maine Contemporary Art for many, many years. And he said, there hasn't really been a big photography exhibition in Maine in about 7 years. And I said, well, I talked to the landlord of the space, and it's 4,000 square feet. So I'm thinking we could probably put a lot of people in there. And he said, oh, yes, you could. And in fact, I did hold an exhibition with probably about 27 photographers from all over the state of Maine. And I held an auction as part of it. And there were really probably over 500 photographic prints in that show. And what I was hoping was just to have a show and make a little money. And I made a little less than I thought. I just want to say that. But what the byproduct of that whole experience is that I discovered photography in the state of Maine, and photography in the state of Maine is the best of the best in this whole country. And it's not just lovely bucolic landscapes and sunsets and lighthouses. It's not that at all. It's actually very cutting edge photography. And so I learned a lot. I learned about the community. I learned about photography as fine art in the 20th century. And I also almost overnight gained a reputation for knowing photography in the state. And a year later, I ended up founding the Maine Museum of Photographic Arts, which I was very proud to do.
Yeah. Proud. And it all started from a drive down Route 1 in Falmouth on a quiet day in 2009.
Totally dead, totally snowy, totally like, oh God, how are we going to get through it again? Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So, the takeaway from that is, for me, really, that was one of the first lessons, hard lessons in the business I learned, that a lot of times those big undertakings don't really get the results you're thinking they're going to get ahead of time, but sometimes the results are just tenfold after the fact.
Oh,
you
yeah.
just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
the byproduct
out there, and it's like you and the podcast, mm-hmm. Just, it's kind of an instinctual thing, and you don't know where it's going to go, but if you don't take a risk, that's the worst of all, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I totally agree that it's often we have a plan, we have actions we want to take, and there's a certain result that we're looking for. And we don't always get that result, but oftentimes we get, I love the term, and it's becoming one of my favorite terms lately, is unintended consequences. Like the byproducts of the actions we took actually creates a pretty amazing experience that we just never predicted, because we couldn't have seen, what was going to unfold from it, or what the ripple effect was going to be. And that's amazing amazing, Liz. And you and I had a quick chat right before the call, and we were talking about like some of the low moments. And it's like, well, which one do you want me to talk about? Right. Yes. Right. Cause on like, isn't it true on paper and oftentimes in social media, we and other people, we look like our lives are just so perfect and everything is going great. But the reality is we're all human beings. We all have moments, where, the inner critic or the gremlin gets us and we have our moments of doubt. So Liz, share with us one of your playing small moments and the lessons you've learned from it.
Okay. So, I started this business in 2004 and it was started with my parents. And I just want to say that had I not had their financial support and their emotional support and the work experience that they both had, I never could have done this on my own. But what is in mind to answer that question is that I was in business for 3 or 4 years when 2 gallery owners from Portland came to pay me a visit. And when they were here, and one of them had been around a long time and the other, well, they both really had been around a long time. And both of them I highly regarded the work they did and by reputation. And upon leaving, they said, you really ought to move into Portland because you're in a strip mall in Falmouth. And I don't think it's great for your business. And that really, it sort of dug at me for a long time. Because who doesn't want to have some either very glamorous location in a historic building or some really cool warehouse lofty place with tall ceilings and cement floors and AKA not in a strip mall, right? Mm-hmm. So, but the reason I ended up in a strip mall to start with is because we were also Fast Frame, which was a West Coast framing franchise. And they had very beautiful products and they trained us and helped us set up the framing side of the business. But they had that terrible name, Fast Frame, which was really very much in conflict of what I was doing as far as the work in the gallery. So I knew I needed to split with them. And in fact, I think I had already split with them at that time. But Fast Frame was a large corporation and they had sent out a gentleman who went all over the country determining what was the best location for a business given the demographics of the general area. So when that representative came and he looked in Falmouth, Cumberland, Portland, Scarborough, it was always determined that Falmouth by demographic interest and education level was going to be the best opportunity for success, because when it comes to owning a business, location really is important. Now, I also had the fortunate experience of having managed the Stein Gallery, which was a glass gallery in Portland for 7 years prior to opening here. And so I knew from that experience that 90% of the sales went to out-of-state tourists. And, which meant that the business was very seasonal and, relied on a very tight visitor time frame, too tight for my desires and my needs. And anyway, in the end, I felt that although Falmouth wasn't as glamorous as I would have hoped, I know for sure to this day, I would not have survived economically had I not been in this community. And beyond buying power, I will say that my clients, who many have become my friends, that this community has some of the most wonderful, thoughtful, loyal, positive forward-thinking business people, family people. It's just been really rewarding for me. And so I don't feel anymore that I need that glamorous downtown Portland location to cater to the tourists. I feel very much a part of a community that's relevant, and it fits with my mission, which is basically educating the people of Maine about how great their artists are.
Mm-hmm. I totally get that, Liz. And, what I love about your story, it really points to, sometimes self-doubt comes from within, but sometimes it's almost like it's initiated by an innocent comment. I'm sure those two people, the gallery owners that you knew and respected, they were just like caring about you and wanted you to succeed. And in their mind,
they wanted me to be part of the gang. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's, and oftentimes it can be like family or friends or colleagues, like people we respect and love can sometimes say things that make us go, oh no, like what am I doing? I'm so glad you had the epiphany that like, nope, these are all the reasons. Cause I'm sure it like hurt a little bit when you first heard it. And I know the women listening can definitely relate to that. Like a comment said with good intentions out of love from somebody we care about sometimes can be the worst. Right? Because we're like, oh my God, like, don't you believe in me and what I'm doing here? But it does take those thoughtful reflections and reminders of like, no, I'm doing the right thing. I'm going in the right direction. There's a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, so that those innocent comments don't turn into like essentially like a toxic thought in your head.
Yeah. And I will say too that actually this gallery space that I do have is it's quite large, very large. I probably have more inventory than almost any other gallery in the state. And it's taken me 13 years, but it looks the way I always wanted it to look, or close anyway.
It's getting there. Awesome. Now, Liz, close. Yes. Now, Liz, share with us a time in your journey when you had a wake-up call, right? For some people, it's a flashbulb moment. For others, it's a dawning or a slow awakening. But in either case, there's a moment when you're ready to take action. So if you could, tell us what led up to that moment and then the steps you took that led to your success.
Well, of course, I alluded to the idea of the photography museum, and that is ongoing, and that is close to my heart. And we're amping up plans to bring in more people in the community. But as far as a real aha moment, and there have been plenty of aha moments, but I'll tell you one that's a little more of an exciting aha moment. And that is, I think it was maybe 2010. A client of mine came in and he said, I have this painting that's been in my family for a long time, and I wonder if you could take a look at it and tell me if you think it's worth anything. My father told me it was before he passed away. And, I think it may be somebody important. And so I'm very open to integrating my art history, scholarship with the way I run the business, which means that I do often sell secondary market works by dead artists. The majority of the business is contemporary living artists, but I also do private sales of secondary market work. And so I said, sure, yeah, I'd love to look at it, bring it in. So I brought it in, and it was dirty and it had a bunch of tears in it. But I could tell immediately that the quality of the brush strokes and the light and just everything about it was the creme de la creme. So I found out from the family the name of the painter, and it was Albert Edelfelt. And I won't mention the family because I don't know who they ever told, but the painter was Albert Edelfelt. And Albert Edelfelt was basically Finland's Monet. So that is of the level of this painting. And I looked it up and I realized immediately that it was a very valuable piece. I also checked auction records and things. And, but I advised the client to take steps to make sure that he expressed interest in reselling it. And I felt I could broker it to the highest price point for him versus going to Sotheby's or Christie's or putting it into an auction. And he felt confident. I felt confident. And I advised him to restore the painting. And the process took many months. From the beginning to the end of me selling it, the process probably took 7 months. But he had it restored with a great art painting restorer down in York, Anthony Moore. And I analyzed what I thought the top figure would be that the family could expect based on auction records. And the subject matter, which was 2 imperial sailing vessels in Copenhagen Harbor in the late 1800s. And I reached out to some contacts I have in New York, then president of ArtNet, Bill Fine, and I said, I have this painting and it's by Albert Edelfelt and I think it's pretty important. Can you lead me in the right direction? And sure enough, a couple weeks later, he set up a meeting for me with private buyers that flew in from Finland to see the painting. And when we all went to the vault together to examine it, they read from a book that said Albert Edelfelt painted 3 of those scenes for Tsar Nicholas, who was the last Tsar of Russia, and that this painting was the needle in the haystack. They had the 2 existing ones were in the Royal Palace. One was in a private collection, and this was the missing one referenced in this book, rumored to be somewhere in the United States. So I sold it. I sold it for a very good price. The family was happy. The people were very happy, and it was really exciting. And I came home and I thought, darn it, I'm just as good as anybody else operating out of Falmouth, Maine. So
that's awesome, Liz. And it was a chance happening, but it was an opportunity for you to show your customer, and it sounds like show yourself what you're really capable and the level at which you can operate. Yes, you have a storefront out in Falmouth, Maine, which doesn't sound very, upscale or highbrow or anything like that. Right. But the reality is you could work anywhere in the world because you're that skilled, you're that talented, and you choose to be in Maine.
That's true. I love Maine. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Maine is, for me, so my personal story connecting with Maine is also sort of wrapped up in art. I came to Maine in my early 20s with a girlfriend, and she and I were sent out to Monhegan Island by her parents, who said, go out there, Liz will love it. There's lots of artists out there. And so I ended up meeting my first husband out there, and he was the one that eventually moved me up to Maine from Maryland, Virginia area. So, and of course, Monhegan is, you can't look at the history of Maine art without acknowledging the relevance of Monhegan Island. And you can't look at American art at all without the relevance of Maine. So it's really interesting to me.
And Liz, let's jump right into what you're working on. So if you could share with us something you're working on right now that you're really excited about, want to share with us.
Okay. So recently I'm always thinking, how do I reach beyond the state? That's always part of my mindset. Because as you said earlier, my mission or my desire for the gallery is that people recognize Maine's role in American art, Maine's artists, and that means contemporary as well. And so I have had some success selling internationally, but I would like to try to focus more on exporting internationally. And so currently I have enlisted the help of SCORE, which is a business advisory group out of Portland. They helped advise my father and I when we first started the business. And I thought, it's a 13-year-old business. You're so in it. It's sometimes hard to see your business from the outside. So I thought I'll consult with these advisors so they can look at my business from the outside. And, so one of the things I'm keen on exploring is exporting to China. China has a very big contemporary art buying base and a lot of money right now, and they are keenly interested in American goods. So I hope to explore that, and also perhaps Dubai. I did sell to a Saudi Arabian collector a number of years ago, and while talking with him, learned there are a lot of Northeast educated Americans working in Dubai. And I feel like they may like some of the art from this neck of the woods where they were educated. So I'm exploring that with some potential grants through the Maine International Trade Center.
Mm-hmm. And on the flip side of things, this might even round out the story. What is the biggest leadership or business challenge you're faced with right now?
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Well, it feels like there's a bit of a retraction right now in the art market. I think my sense is it's a little bit two-pronged. One, there is a lot of building going on right now, but the building is the material costs of building are so much higher than they have been in the past that some of the designers I work with are saying that when it comes to doing the final interiors, the clients don't have any budget left over. So that's a potential factor. I do work with a lot of designers in the area. Part of that thought process is with our shaky political atmosphere in this country at this time, I think that there is a little uncertainty in where it's all going, and the unknown can be impact a non-essential industry like art.
Absolutely. And that's the crazy thing about being an entrepreneur is rolling with the circumstances and finding new opportunities. I mean, this is a great time for you to be expanding into exporting because you can find buyers who aren't as impacted directly by the, cost of materials for construction or the U.S. political situation. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the lessons learned, I guess more of a broad lesson learned, doing this for 13 years and doing it through 2008 to 2010, which was impacted my business. My business was down probably almost 70% during that period from the 4 years before that. I did come back up to the highest levels I have had in 2014. But 15 saw a decline, 16 also a decline. So what I'm trying to do is be sensitive to the fact that I may be doing everything right. I'm not saying that I am necessarily, but even if I am, there are forces beyond my control that are impacting me. And then it's those times, to be quite honest with you, that force you to be more creative and to push harder and try things that are more experimental. And when I have done that in the past, it has served me well. Mm-hmm. So I hope to do that again now.
Nice. All right, Liz, let's bring it home. I'm going to do a quick leadership roundup. So for the next 3 questions, answer in 1 sentence.
Okay.
What is one practice you have that helps to make you a better leader?
My relationships with everybody I know.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, my advice to my younger self is that it's okay if you're not 100% every day. It's okay if you're 60 to 75% because the 125% days will outweigh, it'll all even out in the end.
Now share with us a success quote or a mantra and why it has meaning for you.
Okay. I actually have a paperweight on my desk and it's a quote from Benjamin Franklin and it says, "Energy and persistence conquer all things."
And why does it have meaning for you?
Well, in my business, I'm very positive. I have positive energy. I'm also very optimistic. But it also has to do with sort of being intuitive to ideas that come in my mind, to be sort of receptive to that energy and then to push it back out into the universe. And so I think it can mean good things, or it does mean something good to me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it just speaks to our core.
I guess.
Yeah.
I think energy and persistence. You don't always get things right the first time.
Nice. And lastly, Liz, what is the best way for this community to connect with you?
Certainly on my website, Elizabeth Moss Galleries, plural. But also on LinkedIn for corporate parties of interest. And Facebook is also an option. Instagram is as well. So there are plenty.
Yes, I'm like you.
Small.
You can find me everywhere.
You can find me everywhere.
And
you can just walk out. You know what? You can just walk in the door.
Right. If you're local, go visit Liz. If you are not local, come visit Maine and visit Liz while you're here. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
And for those of you who are listening, you can find all the links and resources shared in this episode at womentakingthelead.com. And Liz, thank you so much for taking the time to inspire and enlighten us. We are all better for having met you.
Thank you, Jody. I feel the same.
Before we say goodbye, I want to give a huge shout out to Millie Welsh at Zebra Lab Web Solutions. She does the hosting for the Women Taking the Lead website, as well as the SEO and payment solutions. So if you need help with any of these things, contact Millie at zebralabwebsolutions.com. Thank you all for joining me on Women Taking the Lead. And to strengthen you on your own leadership journey, I'd like to send you off with a quote from Marianne Williamson, so here goes. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Again, thank you for joining me, and here's to your success.